When we think of extinction, our minds often drift back through the mists of time to colossal dinosaurs or magnificent woolly mammoths roaming a primeval world. But extinction is not merely a relic of a distant prehistoric past. It is a stark and pressing reality of our modern age. We are living through what scientists have termed the sixth mass extinction, an event driven overwhelmingly by the activities of a single species, our own. The delicate tapestry of life on Earth is unraveling at a pace never before seen in human history, a direct consequence of our impact on the natural world. The figures are staggering and profoundly sobering. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, through its Red List of Threatened Species, currently identifies over 42,000 species as facing the abyss of extinction. This is not a distant threat, it is an ongoing crisis. The relentless march of climate change, the destruction of habitats for agriculture and urban expansion, pollution, and the introduction of invasive species are all tightening the net around countless forms of life. The need for concerted global conservation efforts has never been more urgent if we are to preserve the wondrous biodiversity that enriches our planet and, indeed, sustains us. These are not tales of ancient fossils, but of creatures that shared our world just a few years or even months ago. We will look at 10 remarkable animals that have vanished in recent times, a poignant reminder of what is at stake. Please sit back as we pay tribute to these ghosts of the natural world and reflect on the lessons their disappearance teaches us. In the vast, sun-drenched savannas of West and Central Africa, a true titan once roamed. The western black rhinoceros, a magnificent subspecies, was a formidable presence, its two horns a symbol of ancient lineage. These creatures, weighing well over a ton, were browsers, meticulously shaping the landscape as they fed on shrubs and trees. They were a keystone species, their very existence interwoven with the health of their entire ecosystem. From the smallest insects to the largest predators, their tough grey hide was like armor, a testament to millions of years of evolution. But this incredible evolutionary armor offered no defense against human greed. The rhino's most iconic feature, its horn, became the very cause of its demise. A relentless wave of poaching, fueled by a lucrative and illegal international market, swept across its range. The horn, made of keratin, the same substance as our own fingernails, was erroneously believed to hold medicinal properties, a tragic myth that signed the death warrant for an entire subspecies. Conservationists fought valiantly, but the pressures were overwhelming. The last known holdouts for this majestic animal were in the wilds of Cameroon. Despite extensive surveys and desperate searches, no sign of a living western black rhino has been found since the mid-2000s. The silence from the savannah was deafening. In 2011, after years without a confirmed sighting, the International Union for Conservation of Nature made the heartbreaking declaration. The western black rhino was officially extinct. A giant had fallen, not to a natural predator or a changing climate, but to a bullet and a saw, leaving a void in the African wilderness that can never be filled. High in the forest canopy of the Pacific island of Guam, a tiny, energetic bird once flitted amongst the leaves. This was the bridled white-eye, a delicate olive-green jewel named for the conspicuous ring of white feathers that encircled its eye, giving it a perpetually surprised and charming expression. These birds were social creatures, often moving in lively flocks, their cheerful chirps and calls forming a vital part of the island's natural soundscape. They played a crucial role as insectivores, helping to control insect populations within their forest home. Their world, however, was irrevocably shattered by an invader. The accidental introduction of the brown tree snake to Guam following the Second World War proved to be an ecological catastrophe. The island's native birds, including the white-eye, had evolved in the absence of such an efficient arboreal predator. They had no natural defenses, no instinct to fear the silent hunter that slithered through the branches at night. The snake population exploded, and the bird populations, in turn, plummeted with terrifying speed. One by one, Guam's native forest birds vanished. For a time, the bridled white-eye clung to existence, a resilient survivor against overwhelming odds. But the combined pressures of relentless predation and habitat degradation proved too much. The last confirmed sighting of this charming little bird was in the 1980s, and by 2016, hope was officially extinguished. While a related subspecies, the saipan white-eye, survives on a neighboring island, the unique song of the Guam bridled white-eye has been silenced forever. a stark lesson in the devastating impact of invasive species. Deep within the cloud forests of Guatemala, in the cool, clear mountain streams, lived a creature of quiet beauty, the Yalpa false brook salamander. This small, slender amphibian was perfectly adapted to its aquatic world. It breathed through its skin, absorbing oxygen directly from the highly oxygenated, fast-flowing water of its home. Its life was a secretive one, spent largely hidden beneath rocks and submerged logs, a patient hunter of small aquatic invertebrates. Its existence was a barometer for the health of the entire watershed, but the pristine streams that gave it life became its downfall. The forests surrounding its habitat began to disappear at an alarming rate. Logging operations tore down the ancient trees that shaded the streams and stabilized the soil. The land was then cleared for agriculture, with cash crops replacing the native forest. This deforestation led to massive soil erosion, which choked the once clear streams with silt and sediment, drastically reducing the water's oxygen levels. Furthermore, pollution from agricultural runoff and the development of aquaculture poisoned the very water the salamanders needed to breathe. The last time a Yalpa false brook salamander was seen alive by scientists was in 1976. For decades, herpetologists held out hope, launching expeditions into the remote Guatemalan highlands, searching the dwindling streams for any sign of a surviving population, but each search came back empty. The habitat was too degraded, the water too polluted. Finally, in 2019, after more than 40 years without a trace, this unique amphibian was declared extinct, a silent victim of habitat destruction. In the vast expanse of the Torres Strait, between Australia and New Guinea, lies a tiny, unassuming island. Bramble Cay is little more than a sandbank, a few hundred meters long, barely rising above the waves. This fragile outpost was the only known home in the entire world for a small, unassuming rodent, the Bramble Cay melames. This little mammal, similar to a rat but with a distinctive mosaic pattern on its tail, lived a life dictated by the sea and the sparse vegetation that clung to the sand. It was a specialist, perfectly adapted to its isolated and precarious home. Its existence was always fragile, but it was a new threat that sealed its fate. Human-induced climate change began to alter the world's oceans in profound ways. Rising sea levels and an increase in the frequency and intensity of storm surges began to sweep over the low-lying cay with devastating regularity. These inundations of salt water killed the very plants the melames relied on for both food and shelter. With each successive storm, its habitat shrank, its food sources vanished, and its world was washed away. The last known sighting of a Bramble Cay melamis was by a fisherman in 2009. Subsequent scientific surveys found the island stripped of almost all its vegetation and discovered no trace of the little rodent. In 2016, a landmark and deeply tragic announcement was made. The Bramble Cay melames was declared extinct, becoming the first mammal in the world officially recognized as a victim of anthropogenic climate change. Its story is a harrowing prologue to a chapter we are only just beginning to write. A warning from a tiny island of the immense changes our actions are inflicting upon the planet. The Yangtze River, Asia's longest waterway, swam a fish of almost mythical proportions. The Chinese paddlefish was a true river monster, a behemoth that could grow up to 7 meters in length. It was a creature from another time, its lineage stretching back over 200 million years, having survived the extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs. Its most striking feature was its long, sword-like snout, or rostrum, which was covered in electroreceptors, allowing it to detect the faint electrical fields of its prey, small fish and crustaceans, in the murky river water. For millennia, this giant navigated the vast and complex ecosystem of the Yangtze, a top predator and a symbol of the river's wild power. But, in the 20th century, its ancient kingdom came under assault. The river was subjected to intense and relentless overfishing, with nets and lines depleting the very fish populations the paddlefish needed to survive. Its immense size made it a prized, albeit rare, catch. But the final, insurmountable blow came from the fragmentation of its habitat. The construction of dams, most notably the Gajuba Dam in the 1980s, cut the paddlefish off from its only known spawning grounds upstream. Trapped and unable to reproduce, the population was doomed. The last confirmed sighting of a live Chinese paddlefish was in 2003. Scientists tracked the fish, which had been accidentally caught and then released with a tag, but the tag soon fell silent. Despite exhaustive searches of the vast river system, no other individuals were ever found. In 2019, after years of silence from the deep, the king of the Yangtze was declared extinct. An ancient lineage, a survivor of cataclysms, was finally defeated by concrete and nets. On Pinta Island, one of the northernmost islands in the Galapagos archipelago, lived a unique subspecies of giant tortoise. Like its relatives on other islands, it was a slow-moving, gentle giant, a master of its volcanic landscape. These tortoises are ecosystem engineers, their grazing habits and seed dispersal shaping the very flora of the islands. For centuries they lived in peaceful isolation, but their world was shattered by the arrival of sailors and whalers who hunted them for food, and by the introduction of feral goats, which decimated their food supply. By the early 20th century, the Pinta Island tortoise was thought to be entirely extinct. But in 1971, a single lone male was discovered, a miraculous survivor against all odds. He was brought into captivity at the Charles Darwin Research Station and named Lonesome George. He became an international icon of conservation, a living, breathing symbol of the fragility of life and the devastating impact of humanity. For 40 years he was the last of his kind, the rarest creature on Earth. An immense global effort was launched to find a mate for George. Females from related subspecies were introduced to his enclosure in the hopes that some genetic legacy could be preserved, but all attempts at breeding were unsuccessful. He was and would remain utterly alone. On the 24th of June 2012, Lonesome George was found dead in his enclosure by his longtime keeper. With his passing, the hope for his species died too. In 2015, the Pinta giant tortoise was officially declared extinct, its story a powerful and tragic lesson in loss, and a reminder that sometimes even our best efforts can come too late. In the cool, cascading streams of the rainforests of northern Queensland, Australia, lived a small, cryptic amphibian, the mountain mist frog. This creature was a master of camouflage, its mottled brown and grey skin blending perfectly with the wet, moss-covered rocks of its habitat. It was a stream dweller, rarely venturing far from the fast-flowing water where it laid its eggs. For much of its existence, it thrived in this pristine, high-altitude environment, a quiet and unassuming part of a complex ecosystem. But, a silent and invisible killer was spreading through the world's wild places. A pathogenic fungus, Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, or BD for short, began to sweep through amphibian populations globally. This chytrid fungus infects the skin of amphibians, disrupting their ability to absorb water and electrolytes, effectively causing death by heart failure. The high, cool and moist conditions of the mountain mist frog's habitat were, tragically, the perfect environment for the fungus to thrive. The frog population, with no evolved immunity, was utterly defenseless against this devastating plague. Scientists watched in horror as the frogs began to vanish from stream after stream. The last known wild population disappeared with shocking speed in the early 1990s. Despite extensive and repeated searches of its former mountain haunts, no individual has been seen for 3 decades. The streams fell silent. In 2021, with all hope exhausted, the mountain mist frog was officially declared extinct. Its disappearance is a chilling example of how a microscopic pathogen, spread globally through human activity, can wipe an entire species from the face of the earth. The rainforests of western Panama were once home to a living gem. The splendid poison frog was a breathtakingly beautiful creature, its skin a brilliant, uniform vermilion red. This vibrant color was not for show, it was a warning. Known as aposematism, this striking coloration advertised the potent toxins in the frog's skin to any potential predators, a clear signal to stay away. This tiny amphibian, barely an inch long, hopped boldly across the forest floor during the day, confident in its formidable chemical defenses. Its beauty, however, made it a target for a different kind of predator. The illegal pet trade saw these stunning frogs as a valuable commodity, and they were collected from the wild to be sold to enthusiasts overseas. This pressure, combined with the steady loss of its forest habitat, began to place the species in a precarious position. But the threat that would ultimately push it over the edge was the same invisible plague that was decimating amphibians across the globe, the chytrid fungus, bud. It arrived in the frog's mountainous home and spread like wildfire. The combination of collection for the pet trade and the unstoppable onslaught of disease was simply too much for the splendid poison frog to withstand. The last time this vibrant creature was seen in the wild was in 1992. For years, biologists searched for it, hoping a small population might have survived in some isolated pocket of the forest. But the searches yielded nothing but silence. In 2018, the world had to officially acknowledge the loss of this brilliant red jewel of the rainforest. In the mountains that straddle the border between Panama and Costa Rica, a diverse and colorful group of amphibians known as harlequin frogs once thrived. Among them was the Chiriqui harlequin frog, a species that exhibited a stunning variety of colors and patterns, from bright yellow and orange to green, often overlaid with black blotches and lines. Each individual was almost unique. These frogs were diurnal, active during the day, and were often found along the banks of the clear, fast-flowing mountain streams where they bred. Like so many of their relatives, their world was turned upside down by the arrival of the deadly chytrid fungus BD. The cool, moist highland environment was a perfect breeding ground for the pathogen. The Chiriqui harlequin frog, which lived in dense social groups, was particularly vulnerable. The disease could spread rapidly from frog to frog, leading to mass die-offs that were both swift and catastrophic. Scientists who had studied these vibrant populations for years returned to their field sites to find them eerily empty, the once lively streambanks now silent and devoid of color. The last confirmed sighting of a Chiriqui harlequin frog in the wild was in 1996. For over 2 decades it lingered on the lists of critically endangered species, a ghost species that many feared was already gone. Extensive searches failed to find any survivors. The rainbow of colors that once adorned the streamside rocks had vanished. In 2019, the official declaration was made, and another beautiful amphibian was added to the growing list of species lost to the devastating BD pandemic. High in a small, isolated cloud forest reserve in Monteverde, Costa Rica, lived an animal of almost mythical beauty, the golden toad. For a few short weeks each year, after the first heavy rains, the males would emerge from their burrows. They were a brilliant, almost fluorescent orange, gathering in the hundreds in shallow, rain-filled pools to await the larger, mottled yellow and black females. This explosive breeding event was a spectacular, world-renowned natural phenomenon, a dazzling flash of life in the misty forest. The golden toad's existence depended entirely on a precise set of environmental conditions. Its breeding cycle was inextricably linked to the weather patterns of its tiny 4-square-kilometre habitat. But in the late 1980s, those patterns began to change. Scientists believe that human-induced climate change, linked to the warming of the Pacific Ocean, led to unusually dry weather in Monteverde. The ephemeral pools the toads relied upon for breeding began to dry up too quickly, or failed to form at all. The eggs and tadpoles desiccated before they could mature. After a spectacular breeding event in 1987, only a handful of males were seen in 1988 and 1989, and then nothing. The single male seen on May 15, 1989, was the last golden toad ever recorded. Despite its protected status and the intense scientific interest it garnered, it simply vanished. For years it was a poster child for the amphibian decline crisis, its disappearance a profound mystery. Finally declared extinct in 2019, the golden toad stands as one of the first and most powerful symbols of how climate change can sever the delicate threads of a species' life cycle, extinguishing a vibrant life form in the blink of an eye. The stories we've shared today are not just historical footnotes, they are urgent contemporary tragedies. The western black rhino, the bramble-cay melames, the golden toad. These creatures are not from a distant past, they are from our immediate present. Their empty spaces in the web of life are wounds inflicted within our own lifetimes. Each extinction is a silent scream, a testament to a system pushed beyond its limits. They are a reflection of our own actions and, tragically, our inaction. The loss of these 10 species is but a fraction of the ongoing devastation, but despair is a luxury we cannot afford. These stories must serve not as eulogies but as catalysts. They must fuel our resolve to protect what remains. The fate of the more than 42,000 species currently teetering on the brink of extinction rests in our hands. We can make conscious choices to reduce our impact, to support conservation initiatives, to restore habitats, and to demand action on climate change from our leaders. The future of biodiversity, the rich, wonderful and complex variety of life on Earth, depends entirely on the decisions we make today. We must learn from these ghosts, lest we create a world full of them. If these stories have moved you, and if you believe in the importance of this message, please consider supporting our channel. By subscribing, liking this video and leaving a comment below, you help us to continue raising awareness about these critical issues. Every interaction helps our voice reach further. Let us know which of these stories impacted you the most. Thank you for joining us on this solemn but vital journey. Let us work together to ensure that future generations can marvel at the wonders of the natural world, not just read about them in history books.